So we're gonna go ahead and get started while the rest of people come in. But if you haven't met me before, my name is Denise Morales. I'm the Community Initiatives Manager for Fifth Ward Community Redevelopment Corporation, which is the building that you are in. It's a nonprofit in the neighborhood that's been here for over 30 years, serving the community through different lines of business. We have community development, which is what I do, real estate development. We have the Arts and the Culture, so the deluxe theater, that one's under our management. We have the HUD certified counselors in the building. They're the ones that counsel people for first-time home buyers or foreclosure. They do all of that assistance and pretty much just here to continue our work in the neighborhood. The program we're here for today is Go Neighborhoods, which stands for Greater Opportunities, started back in 2018. It's a program where community members came together and identified different challenges in the neighborhood, and they said, we're gonna do something about it. So it's already funded. The only thing with this program is that it needs to be community-led. And so community members needs to show up and tell us, okay, this is a project I want to tackle on. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the visuals that you see, because these are the projects that are left to be done in the community, but they encompass real estate, they encompass small businesses, education, advocacy, policy, a lot of different things. So it's like full circle and very holistic. And the other one is all the projects that have been done since 2019. And this one just helps us visualize a little bit more of the projects that we have done or we haven't done and what we need to do more to continue. But just to get us started, I have this video that was sent to me and it talked about how to rethink about our communities and some of the development that's happening. Especially right now, we are seeing townhomes pop up and we think about, oh, well, that means gentrification is coming into the community, or this is happening and I don't know how to get ahead of it. So this is just a video that kind of like really put it into perspective for me, and I wanted to share it with y'all.
When it comes to new developments, it's important not to think about unhelpful metrics like what feels right or what looks nice. Michael Kovacs wrote a great piece for us where he compares city planning to Moneyball. It doesn't matter if someone has a smooth swing. What matters is that he gets on base. Cities should be thinking the same way, but it's not about getting on base. It's about value per acre. It's easy to think that a brand new subdivision that looks nice will help the city, but in reality, cities need to be thinking about productive developments. Does it put the city in a better financial position? Does it get on base? More importantly, how can we scout developments to see if they'll be productive? So I came to Asheville to figure out the answer to this question. How can you make the case for the right kinds of development in your city?
So these are old city planning books from Harvard University Press from 1931, right? What do you see there? This is value per acre. And this is straight out of the 1930s. Real rocket science.
Joe is principal of Urban 3, which is a data and analytics firm focused on land value economics. He's joking about this being rocket science because it's the most simple concept, but so many cities have strayed away from this logic. If a city's most valuable resource is its land, then we can't afford to waste it. The best way to cut through renderings and salesy pitches for expensive new projects is to look at it simply. Will it be an efficient use of valuable land?
When we talk about real estate, we use value per acre because it normalizes the revenue of a property. And what we find is that typically people talk about real estate in big numbers, what's the total value, but it misses the point of its productivity. So to use examples that are behind me right here, we've got this pickup truck right here that's a V8. This has the biggest gas tank of all of these three vehicles that are over here. So it's getting the most miles per tank because it's got the biggest gas tank. But you know how silly that sounds to say that this is a better vehicle than, let's say, that Volkswagen over here, because it gets a bigger miles per tank, right? That sounds silly. Instead, you would say, hey, Joe, we do things on miles per gallon because we want to know what efficiency is. So this Volkswagen is a heck of a lot more efficient, and so is the Subaru, than this pickup truck, right? On miles per gallon. So if we're doing that measurement on a $3 to $4 commodity, why aren't we doing it for a $400,000 to $1 million commodity of a piece of real estate?
All right, so if we know that value per acre is the best way to measure productive and efficient use of space in our cities, then how can we figure out the right kinds of developments that should go on this land?
What's unique about Urban 3 is we're showing the money and how a city operates. So what's behind me here are pieces of architecture. There's humans walking around. There's a tour group on bicycles over here. There's a local brewery. There's restaurants. There's all of this commerce. There's this economic activity. These buildings pay taxes, which fund the infrastructure of the sidewalk or the street. There's a cash flow that's happening, but you see the cash flow that's happening. How do we show people the money of what's happening behind all of this architecture in this community design?
Luckily, Joe and the team at Urban 3 have an answer to this question. To show the money, Urban 3 did a great comparison of a downtown mixed-use building and a Walmart.
Are you a new AT&T customer looking to upgrade your phone? You're trapped, locked into your contract for 3 years. And your phone is locked into then?
The downtown mixed-use building is valued at $11 million. The Walmart is valued at $20 million. Remember though, we don't measure miles per tank, but miles per gallon. So let's do that here. If we measure value per acre, this ends up being a landslide victory for the mixed-use building, with Walmart bringing in $6,500 in property taxes per acre, and the mixed-use downtown building giving $634,000 in property taxes per acre. Add in retail tax, residents, and jobs per acre, and it only increases the difference. This used to be common knowledge. Urban 3 exists to reteach people what our great-great-grandparents knew about making successful places.
The majority of our clients are cities that hire us to look at their fiscal position, where they are with their cash flow, and whether or not their land use patterns can cover their own costs. Having that is a model or a picture helps them communicate to their citizenry. So we're not telling people how to make choices. They just need to see the consequence of their choices. So they have the image to show that.
The models made by Urban 3 show that a mixed-use business district carries the rest of the city. While someone on the outskirts may believe that they're paying their fair share in taxes and that they are the reason why their town is doing well, it's the mixed-use business district that covers the rest of the city's expenses. This comparison shows the total taxable value of an area, the gas tank, if you will. You can see the Biltmore Estate, which is America's largest home, looks like the most productive place on the map. But if you adjust this for value per acre, you'll see that its massive footprint mitigates that value. The most productive places are in the center of town. If you look at this from a 3D view, it becomes even more clear. If a city is evaluating how to develop a piece of land, it should make more of this and less of that. So even if this does make sense, why does it matter? Obviously, there's the financial angle.
We did an analysis of Eugene, Oregon, and just their stormwater system cost them like $450 million if we just go out and pay for it today, like just go build it. And it's happened over time, and it's happened because of the pattern and the way that they grew. So if they had the same amount of square footage of buildings, you get the same revenue from all the buildings paying taxes, but you have more two-story buildings. So you take the square footage and stack it a little bit. You have more two-story buildings, you'd have half the footprint, which means you'd have half the stormwater need because water doesn't flow through a building, right? So if you have half the stormwater need and your stormwater system costs $450 million, you just saved $220 million bucks, right? So if you went back in time and said, how do we want to grow and what's the best way to spend $220 million? Would you have chosen to stretch your city out, or would you have created an after-school program to send every child in the city to Stanford for a summer program? I don't know. Like, we have that choice.
But there's also a much more human angle here. You can make people-centered places, ones designed to linger in and be enjoyed by citizens and visitors, ones that will last longer than us. And this brings up another important angle. Advocating for productive developments also means protecting them. So something I felt while here in downtown Asheville is that it shouldn't be unique, but it is. While many cities were using federal funds to bulldoze historic downtowns and displace minority populations, Asheville didn't have the money to do the former. They've recently been exploring ways to make amends to the communities that they displaced and redlined out.
Different influences influence that city's economy and growth. Asheville, tourism industry really took off in the 1920s. We became the second largest city in North Carolina. There were over 100 hotels in Asheville back then.
We also achieved the highest debt per capita in the entire United States. In the 1920s, we fell flat on our face in the Depression, and it took us until 1976 to pay off our debts. So in a way, by being so far in debt, we couldn't tear any buildings down. So what you have today is this legacy of buildings that were left for us by this civilization that existed in the 1920s.
Let's go 40 years ago, the 1980s. All of this was going to get torn down by that downtown mall proposal. We're standing right in the middle of where the mall was. It was going to go from that street right there all the way up the hill to that street.
When Asheville citizens found out about this plan to flatten downtown to create a mall, college senior and Asheville native Peggy Gardner organized a wrap of downtown, which helped people visualize how much space would be destroyed to make this mall. While she claimed it wasn't a protest, it was clearly effective. Asheville was saved from the trendy but now dying mall. One person who was instrumental in making the Asheville that people now love to visit is Julian Price. He fell in love with Asheville when he saw the mountains poking through Walnut Street, and he saw potential in the neglected buildings downtown.
But he was just very, I don't know, he had kind of a little bit of a visionary type attitude. I would say he, I mean, he wasn't like arrogant, but I think he just really wanted to figure out how to make different communities work. He was just curious about maybe what made a good community.
Maybe you can relate. He decided to live downtown, which, as an independently wealthy person in Asheville at the time, was pretty countercultural.
I guess he just was like, the beauty just bowled him over, and he had a real emotional feeling when he was in Asheville.
So he put his money where his heart was, and he started to invest in local entrepreneurs. The other thing that he did pretty cool is he bought that building right there and basically contributed to a lot of businesses, self-help credit union, basically filling the void on the things that were necessary for the community to have access to local financing, business support, stuff like that.
Oh, I know he was a frustrated creative type, big time. Yeah, he was a big reader, and he loved films, and he loved to document.
He took his skills, his passions, and his love for Asheville and combined that to create City Watch, which was a publication dedicated to showing Asheville how they could make their place better.
I think he liked the big M's. He definitely liked to imagine things big, but he understood that you really have to get down to the details.
Julian embodied the Strong Towns concept of fix the next smallest thing. With his particular skill set and his money, he ended up being an angel investor, but there were so many players in this game to make Asheville a better place. The entrepreneurs, the activists, the politicians.
I actually printed it out. I made an Excel spreadsheet of every single person, the amount of years that they put in on different committees and boards. And each row is about, I'd say about a 1/4 inch big on the printout, and the printout's 12 feet long. It takes a lot of people working collaboratively and collectively going forward. It's not always going to be a love fest. There's going to be fights, and there's going to be a lot of passion, but you have to realize that you're all working together for a common purpose to make a great city, and that cities don't happen by any one person.
I don't know Julian, but I imagine as a troubled creative type, he sometimes wondered if what he was doing would actually make real and substantial change. Millions of people who never met him get to experience the love he had for Asheville every time they see the mountains peek out from the end of the street. I'm tempted to often look elsewhere, whether it be a move or for some giant billion-dollar project to swoop in and make my place better, but that's not how a place comes to be. For millennia, people like Julian took risks, made bets on places that they loved. There will always be people determined to keep their places frozen in time, refusing to improve them for future residents. There will be people who move to places that are already far ahead in doing this work. And there will be people who just let their frustration turn into bitterness instead of action. But don't forget, there will always be people who step up for their towns. People like Joel, who rehabbed local homes incrementally to avoid displacement while improving the neighborhood. Or Kote, who created a coffee shop and gathering place in her neighborhood. And Noah, a high school teacher who started a local conversation in Bloomington, Illinois. I would encourage you to think about how you might fit into your town's story. I mean, how can you not be romantic about that?
Thank you for sticking through that long video, but it's definitely a way to think about the changes that are happening around you and how your participation could really make a difference in your communities. So just let that sink in. But I do want to give the floor to Amanda Edwards. She is here in the office with us and wanted to take the time to kind of give you the platform for the next few minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Amanda Edwards, and I am one of your former at-large Houston City Council members. But now I'm running to become your next mayor. And the reason that I'm running is simple. I think that Houston is in fact at a crossroads. And we've got one of two choices. One can involve our city moving backward, but I have a feeling that those of you in this room will make a different choice. And that is to move our city forward in a way that's bold and innovative and creates a Houston where every single person, no matter what their zip code, no matter what their background, has an opportunity not just to live here in Houston, we want them to thrive here in Houston. And with that bold vision for the future of our city, we're gonna need a leader who has a bold vision for the future that they can execute, but also someone who has the skills and experience to tackle some of the lingering challenges that our city is facing, which prevents us from reaching our true potential as a community. When you think about things like issues around crime, issues around infrastructure, when you think about the underlying issues around the city's financial problems, those are big drivers as to why some of the things that you're dissatisfied with are happening today. So until you get someone in whose experience and ability to get things done is part of that equation, then you'll continue to have the same issues. Now, a little bit about my background and how I came into the space of running for mayor. I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised. I grew up on the north side of town, so I went to a little high school called Eisenhower, right down the street. I go to St. Monica Catholic Church in Acres Home. My family's from the north side. A lot of them actually have roots right here in Fifth Ward, so half of them are Acres Home, half of them Fifth Ward. My great uncles, Uncle Lewis and Clarence, used to own the C&L shoe shop on Lyons Avenue years ago. My mom worked at St. Elizabeth Hospital on Lyons until it closed. So got a lot of rich history in this community. I very much take pride in putting people above politics. When I was growing up, my dad got sick with something called multiple myeloma, which is a form of cancer. And I learned by way of asking my dad a lot of questions about things like insurance, what our U.S. healthcare system was or wasn't, by the questions that I would ask. And I'd ask them, well, what happens if they say no insurance to this treatment? My dad would say things like, well, if they did, we just have to figure something else out. And I just remember at a young age, I was a young teen, feeling very dissatisfied with that response and having a real understanding at a very early age that public service, policy, all of those public facing roles have to think about people first. So you cannot just think about the politics and how do we acquire power, how do we win for you, but you got to think about the outcomes and impacts of people and families and communities. That's what this work is about. And I know that's what you care about, otherwise you would not be gathered here this week today. That's been a purpose that has fueled my passion for public service over these years. I graduated, went to Emory undergrad, and I was in Atlanta. I had the fortune of being a Kenneth Cole Community Building and Social Change Fellow. And so in that work, I got to work with different CDCs in Atlanta, where we helped to cultivate community. We learned how to listen to community, amplify their voices, build community trust, because those are the ingredients of long-term sustainable change that the community has an ownership interest in. That's the kind of work that we need to bring to City Hall, is that long-term sustainable change model where you're focusing on what the community truly desires. After I graduated from Emory, I went to Harvard for law school. I then worked for, at that time, Professor Elizabeth Warren, who would later become Senator Warren. We didn't know that at the time, but I worked for her and had a great number of opportunities. I knew that those opportunities weren't just for me to hold in a vacuum, and that I was getting these incredible opportunities because it was for me to be a best That's a little change. And so when I came back home, I went to New Orleans first. I went to New Orleans because of Katrina. I went and helped with the rebuilding efforts there. Then I came back home and I started practicing law. I was a municipal finance lawyer for 7 years at Vincent Elkins and at Bracewell, where I worked to build community, the bricks and mortar aspect of community. So we were building schools, we were building hospitals, we were building infrastructure, anything that required a lot of money. We were issuing bonds to do that, doing all kinds of different financings to do that. So I did that a long time. But eventually, and also represented different special purpose districts, management districts, just different things of that nature. So all those tools in the toolkit around community development are a part of what my professional expertise is. And so I eventually decided to get into politics, although I don't like politics. When some people ask me that, like, wow, how could you have a career in politics and not like politics? I love public service. I love servant leadership. I love creating and impacting change in communities and neighborhoods. So if I have to hold my nose a little bit and stomach through the politics, so be it, because there's nothing more rewarding to me than doing that work. And so ultimately, I decided to get off the sidelines. I had been being in the space I was more comfortable. And sometimes it's not being about being in the spaces and places where you're most comfortable. It's about being in the spaces where you're most needed. And in my case, I knew that my talents and my heart and all of the things aligned with what was needed in a role like city council. So I ran citywide, I ran at large, and I remember not getting the endorsement from the newspaper. I'll never forget. Wasn't because I wasn't prepared or qualified. I was my first time running. They didn't think I had paid enough political news. And I said, well, that politics again. And I said, well, what about people news? Because I have been working with more neighborhoods. I have been doing the work. I was the board chair for a number of years for Project Roadhouse even. So I had been doing grassroots community work for a while. And so I figured, I don't think it's about politics or people, political views at all. I think it's about people views. And so that's what we made that campaign about. We talked to everybody, we listened to them, amplified their voices, but most importantly, reflected solutions that could work in respective communities. And so we ended up doing that work all over the city, so much so that I ended up winning that election with more votes than anybody else running for office, including the mayor. Don't tell him I said that. But we ended up doing that because it wasn't about me, right? It was about the community. And that's what you have to do with this work. You have to make it about community. And so when I got into public office, of course, got a lot of work done. Focused on things like trying to start our city's technology and innovation task force, which has now led to the creation of new innovation districts. So we've all heard of that old Sears building that's been converted into the ION. That's a direct product of our work. We created the innovation district out because we wanted to see startups in our city thrive. But as we were doing that on the tech side, I also noticed something different, which was that the city of Houston, we like to talk about how we're the most diverse city in the nation, and we are. But I said one day, well, what good is it to be the most diverse city in the nation if we are not solving the challenges that our diverse communities face? Isn't that really the point? And so I started a task force for women and minority-owned businesses that were having trouble accessing capital, scaling their businesses. The gaps are extreme in Houston in terms of accessing opportunity. And despite the fact we've got storefronts all over the place, they're not sharing in the sales and the receipts. When we did the work, we looked at it, we saw that when you looked at white-owned small business owners, they were at $225 billion in sales and receipts. This is pre-COVID. But when you compared it by race and you looked at Latino-owned businesses, we're 19.1 billion. When you looked at it and compared it by race, Black-owned businesses were at 3.3 billion in our city of Houston. And we know, just like anybody else, we're the most diverse, right? So we have businesses, they're just not sharing an opportunity. They're not accessing the capital, they're not able to scale it. And we've got to have policies in place. We have to also have a community accountability about what we expect to create here. If we're the most diverse city in the country, what's stopping us from being the most equitable city in the country? That should be part of paradigm, the goal of how we really achieve our potential as a city. And so those are the kinds of projects and work that I got into. But I'll tell you what drove me to want to run for mayor. And that is this: when Hurricane Harvey struck our community, we all lived that experience. I don't have to tell you what the 50 inches of rainfall was. I don't have to tell you what $125 billion worth of damage looked like. It was the second worst disaster in American history. And I never forget, I got a phone call to come check on some seniors. And I did. And I learned, I learned something I wasn't expecting to learn. I knocked on some of those doors, and the first thing I had to ask was, how you clean up your house? Tell me. I said, what about your furniture? You gonna get that out of the home? They said, oh yeah, I got my grandchild. But when I asked them, what are you gonna do about your walls? And in house after house after house that I would visit, it all said the same thing, which is, well, those walls are already dry. And of course, as you know, you can't let walls that have been soiled by flood water remain in the home, otherwise you're gonna get what? Mold. So that broke my heart, but of course, I wasn't elected to be brokenhearted, I was elected to act and to activate. And so we mobilized hundreds of volunteers. We started going door to door to check on our seniors that we felt would be in the most vulnerable conditions. And so we spent a lot of time in the Northeast doing that work. And when I was stepping on those doorsteps, one of the first things they say to me is, what are you doing? And of course, I thought they might not have been able to see my shirt, my city council shirt. So I said, I'm a council member. I'm here to help. You know, I'm thinking they just need that introduction. Wasn't the question. What they were really asking was, what are you doing here? Are you up for re-election already? That would be the question. Door after door, porch after porch. And remember, I just said this was the second worst disaster in American history. So what is the most striking about that juxtaposition is that this is the second worst disaster in American history. And the first thing that came to mind when you saw your elected official standing on your doorstep is that she must need something from you, as opposed to being there to make the deposit into your life. And what that represents to me is a democracy that isn't working for everyone. See, I think that democracy shouldn't just start and end at the ballot. I think it starts at the ballot, but it should end with people getting the results that they deserve, the deposits made into their lives, the outcomes that we talk about on these campaign trails. That's when democracy is truly working for everybody. And let me tell you, we know how to go find you when it's election season. We know where you vote. We know how many times you vote. We know what precinct you vote in, what coffee you drink when you vote. I'm just kidding. But we know a lot about you. But we gotta know even more about you when it's time to deliver the change. Yes. That's the piece that's been missing, is that we do a good job on the front end to get everybody revved up. But what about that accountability? What about that delivery of the results? What about doing the things we say we're gonna do on these campaign trails? That's why I want to be Houston's next year. I want to be the person that delivers the change that we talk about in groups just like these. I want to be the person who makes sure that when we're thinking about policies that we're going to know who's coming in behind, whether they're vulnerable or our richest resident to our most vulnerable resident. We ought to be judged by the way we treat our most vulnerable. And I believe that if we have the right leadership in place, this is a moment in our time, in our city's trajectory, where it's very important. A lot is at stake. Lives are at stake. You know that intimately well. And so we've got to get someone who is going to lead with the political courage and be unafraid of the consequences of this. And if we can do that, there is absolutely nothing we can't accomplish as a city. And I'll close with this. You know, sometimes people hear me talk and they say, man, you are really passionate about the city and you got these big, bold ideas and you say all these, you know, big things. And I say, well, so, you know, aren't you a little afraid you can't get there? And I said, no, not at all. Because really and truly, the things that I say about this Houston and how we can become America's future and all of these things truly tie to our roots in the first place. If you really just think about what our city is, I don't know if y'all know this, but we're not actually even on the coast, okay? We dredged a port 50 miles inland because we could, and now we are home to the busiest port in the United States. That is innovation. That is innovation and ingenuity. That's our city. We're home to not the country's largest medical center. That's not big enough. We are home to the world's largest medical center, and we lead in medicine all over the globe. This is our community. This is our Houston. We have so much at our disposal. NASA, we're the energy capital of the world, the past, the present, and I would venture to say the future. There is absolutely nothing we cannot accomplish when we put our minds to it. So why not seek to create a Houston where everybody can thrive? I don't think that's far-fetched at all. And when you think about what Kleinberg said when he left Houston, one of the things he talked about in the Chronicle was that Houston looks like America's future. I would love it if Houston became known as acting like America's future, and the work that we do and the outcomes we produce. And if we do that, there is absolutely nothing that can be done to stop us. So if you have not recognized, I'm pretty bullish on my city. And I'm very passionate about the work that is left to be done and the importance of leadership. Now, as I mentioned, we have a choice at this crossroads, and we are at a crossroads. Our city has tough times ahead. How tough are they, man? They're tough. You know, we have fewer police officers today than what we had in the last 20 years. Did y'all know? And it's not because of a policy against police. No, it's financial problems we have. We have infrastructure problems. Our residents are not safer today. We need to make them much more safe than they were before. We can't just make them marginally safe. We need them much safer than they were before. We've got to make those investments. And we've got to deal with the underlying causes to a number of our challenges, which happen to be our city's financial problems. One of the things that I will tell you is that the city of Houston is going to be facing a deficit of $350 million when I take office. I'm going to repeat that, $350 million deficit. So you know what that means? There are going to be some people who would press panic buttons, okay? I don't know about you guys. When I get on an airplane, I want the person flying the plane that I'm sitting on to be trained to fly the plane. I don't want you trying to figure out the buttons while I'm on the plane. I don't want you trying to do any guesswork. I want you to know what you do. And the good news is I'm someone who is trained in municipal finance. This is what I've spent my career working on. As I mentioned, that's what I did for 7 years before even entering into public office at Vincent Office of President. So you need somebody with a steady hand to navigate what will be some turbulence, but get us to the other side, which is this destination that will be known as America's future. And if we can do that, there is absolutely nothing we won't be able to accomplish. We've got to pay for the things. If the car doesn't have gas in it, it doesn't go. So I talk about community policing all the time. But guess what? Community policing costs money. It costs community policing money. And you can't have those models that work better, that prevent crime, that keep residents safe, until you actually have enough law enforcement that are trained in the way they should be trained to do the work that you really need them to do. Right now, we do a lot of chasing around crime. We chase it around. We don't do it all very well because we don't even have enough police to do it. What about preventing the crime in the first place? That's when I think I want to be measured by how much crime did I prevent? How much crime did we bring down? Everybody deserves to be served and protected in our city. Nobody wants to be abused. Nobody wants to have an adversarial relationship with law enforcement. So we gotta get the right folks in our communities. The people who want to invest, want to know the community, want to be a part of that fabric. That's what that is about. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to run and serve as your next mayor. And I hope that you all get excited too. Get excited, let's just like me. And if you do, there won't be anything you can't accomplish. And I'll close with this, because I need your help. Besides for elected, I need your help with this. We have a challenge in Houston that happens to revolve around the mayor's race, and that is the mayor's race in Houston is one of the lowest voter turnout elections in this country. Out of 2.2 million Houstonians, we only have 250,000 people that vote for mayor. Did y'all hear what I just said? Out of 2.2 million Houstonians, only 250,000 people actually pick who's going to be the next meeting. And it's even smaller in the runoff. Okay? That's just the first round. So what does that mean? We need your help communicating to people that there's an election this year. Most of it stems from confusion. This is an off-year cycle. So you usually have your elections in even number years, like the 22s, the 24, the 20, right? And so that's when people are getting stuff on their iPhones. That's when they're seeing it on TV, cable news, all the things. Well, guess what? The only race happening in town right now are the municipal races. And the rest of that is not until 2024. So because that's happening, most people think the mayor's race is in 2024. So they'll see us running around, it's like, girl, I'm gonna vote for you. And they'll say, go for it, and yay, and be excited. But they're still waiting for the primary. This is a non-general election, I mean, a nonpartisan general election. Nonpartisan, meaning there are no Ds, no Rs. Now, of course, people are Democrats and Republicans, but there's nothing on the ballot that says that. There are no blues or reds. It's just a bunch of names, and you gotta go remember the person you like, and then go pick them. And so that's what we're up against. Most people don't know the election is this year. So even if there are people you know are active in politics, do not assume that they know that the election is this year, because I assure you, the numbers would be much higher if they did. So make sure you're telling people that when you're having the conversation, I'm supporting so-and-so, I'm supporting so-and-so. Have that conversation, but in the same breath, say November 7th, 2023. All right, so thank y'all so much for your time. And if y'all have any other questions or concerns, feel free to reach us. My website is www.edwardsforhouston.com. Our campaign office is open, the yard signs. We deliver yard signs as well, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our office is open 2202 Alabama is the street. It's the 3rd ward. We'll probably end up opening up a north side location as well, closer to the election. And so don't hesitate to reach out. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We actually answer them. Oh, you raising your hand now? Okay.
Yeah, my own add, when you talk about those tax numbers, my own ask is, in places even like Atlanta, where we represent 60% of the population, represent under 10% of the business. And I like the innovation hub, but be a real direct reach down and grab for those minority owned businesses.
Yeah.
Raise those numbers, and that raises tax numbers. So it's actually a burn bit paying for that 350 million, and we have a real smart.
Yeah, so we can't actually, that 350 can't get paid for by bond financing. So you can't use bond financing to pay that situation that we've got. But ultimately, we need to have real policies in place. So there, for example, one policy that I'm seeking to promote that would help women and minority business, small business owners would be something called the Houston Community Banking Program. And that program would create a paradigm where the city operates at a $5.7 billion budget. So we have a big budget at our city. So why not connect your money where your mouth is? So if we're saying we want to support small businesses of color, why not say to our lending institutions, our traditional banking institutions? When I got started with this work, the statistic that minority-owned businesses could be 3 times less likely to gain access to capital than their non-minority counterpart, which is just shocking to me. That was a national statistic years ago. It's not quite as bad anymore, but it's still bad. And the point I'm making is we've got to put our money where our mouth is at the city. So if we've got a city where we have all this cash and that we can deposit, I'm going to move the money to the spaces and places that increase access to lending to minority-owned businesses. Okay, that's an example of the Houston Community Banking Program, where we as a city could embrace. Some people say, well, how can you get involved in what's happening in the private sector? Easily. And that's an example of how. So if you're not supporting the mission that we're looking for, either by way of direct loans or through what you're sending down to CDFIs, which are community development financial institutions that lend at much higher rates to small businesses of color, then that's, well, we just need to go with who's going to produce the results that we're looking for our community. And that's where I think the city needs to be deposited. And if you don't want to do those things, that's fine. We can't make you, but we certainly can make choices about where our cash deposits go. And those are the ways in which you start connecting the dots between what you're saying and the policies and the outcomes you're trying to produce. Great question. Yes, sir.
I have a consideration for you.
Yes.
So I work in privacy, data privacy, which is, largely about helping people protect their personal information. And I had a conversation with a county commissioner who I won't name, but he couldn't, tell me, where in his office or his constituency that responsibility fell, right? And one of the things that you mentioned in your speech right now is about access to information, right? Including including people having access to information, so in businesses and things like that. So when I went out and started to really realize a lack of access to information around helping people protect themselves online and in the digital world, and where we're, constantly becoming more and more interconnected. And what I learned was that our vulnerable, our most vulnerable populations, like our senior citizens and our youth, don't have that education. And, you can go out there, you can look at the library's website, you can look at where, within the city, you can get educational resources about that. And it's just really, really hard to find. So that's why I'm here today. I'm here because I just want to find a channel and an avenue to start getting people to think about some of these things. So I would just ask you to consider, as where in your campaign strategy, the theme of accessing information, but particularly around, where I think we're trailing some of our other large municipalities in just helping people learn how to, protect themselves in this kind of this new way of working and learning.
Yeah, so basically making cybersecurity more accessible in terms of just the information and awareness of that, the need for that, and how to go about getting the right tools in place to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, it's just around helping people make informed decisions about, the things that they hold most dear,
Yeah.
their personal.
And we find that, what you're describing is empowerment, right? Like we need to empower residents with information of a variety of sorts. So you're using the information of public safety in the cyberspace, right? In cyberspace in that regard. But so much of what I would like to do is create empowerment kits for our residents. Like so many things people are starting to know. And we don't have, people ask me, well, does the city, how can we make people aware? And people are, you've got to do awareness campaigns of things, right? Like their empowerment kits. People don't even know, for instance, that you call 311, what you do when you get a reference number, and how to utilize your city council. People don't know there's something called public session that happens every Tuesday at 1:30. There are a lot of things that we take for granted at the city that most people don't have any idea about. It's not because you're a bad person or a bad citizen, it's just not accessible information. And so until you run across it for some specific reasons, you will never have a reason to know because we're not pushing that messaging out. And so if we start pushing out as a city, things that would be empowerment tools for our residents to advocate for themselves or to keep themselves safe. There are lots of, tools, that you could rotate around different things. What might be around safety, it might be cybersecurity. Maybe the next one is neighborhood security. There are programs that you can engage in. I remember going to a neighborhood several months ago, learning that there was a partnership with, I believe it was Lowe's, if I'm not mistaken, where residents, the porch lights, if their porch lights go out, Lowe's was donating for free lights so that I think it was called Light It Up Houston or something. And they would just go and deliver those lights to those porches. So then all of a sudden the dark environment that's been created, because that senior may not be in a position to put that light, change the porch or light or whatever. All of a sudden, some of those threats are tools that the neighborhood could use themselves to help improve the conditions of the community. And so I'm very much centered on ways to empower people with information, ways to empower people with an opportunity to keep themselves in the conditions they want to be. And that's part of that equation. But if you don't know these things exist, if you don't know that you have 6 council members, most people don't realize that they have 6 council members. You think, oh, I got a district council. Well, you do. Then you have 5 at large. You call, let me tell you, people used to come to my office all the time. And they didn't care I wasn't at large councilman. They didn't care at all. They were, because guess what? I'm a councilman. That's my job, is be responsive. And so you call 6 if you want to. And most people have no idea about how to advocate for things they need in their community. What do you do? A dead dog is in front of your house. What do you do? And just all kinds of stuff. People don't know what to do. They're just kind of looking, and it's not because they're not good residents. That information is not accessible.
Yes.
So it's our job in the city to make some baseline information. People don't know you're not supposed to, put your grease down the drain. So people don't know that. So we have huge problems in our city with blockages in our systems because people dump the grease down the drain. They don't know they're not supposed to do that. It didn't break down. And they also don't know, did you know this? I don't know if you know this. I was surprised to hear this actually. Did you know you're not supposed to put baby wipes down the toilet?
My dad's mom.
But yeah, so you're not. It's not, so don't put that because it's a problem for the city, because it creates blockages for the city. And that creates public safety threats, believe it or not, because we need everything flowing the way it's supposed to flow. Otherwise, things start backing up into the space they're not supposed to be, and it's not safe. So I say that to say there are lots of little just tips here, information, just things that along the way I've acquired because I've been in city council. But most people are not paying attention to the city government like that. For them to have that knowledge, they're not coming to meetings just like this. You guys are an oddity, right? Like most people, they're going at home, at work, they do your homework, they're not here. And it's not that they're not good residents, it's just the nature of life, right? And competing priorities. And so you guys have carved out space for this, but that's not commonplace, right? Most people don't do extracurricular stuff. So I say out to say, we've got to reach them where they are. And I often use the example of my grandmother. My grandmother did not drive. So she did not drive a car. And she did one of four things. She went to her doctor's appointments. She went to church. She went to the grocery store and she saw her family. And one of those four things, my grandmother wasn't doing it. And she could have put an amusement park outside of her house. And my grandma would look out of that window and see what was going on, closed it, and then called my mom and said, when you come over here, go check out whatever they're doing over there. I don't know what they got over there. And that would have been in the story. She wasn't going to go see for herself. And I bring that up only to say that you gotta meet residents where they are. And sometimes that means showing up on their doorsteps. That's how I knew when Harvey happened that just having it on the news was not gonna be enough. Just having an app talking about where you could get help or me posting on Facebook wasn't gonna be enough. I had to show up. And I had to show up. Sometimes I had to talk through doors because people didn't feel safe. And that's okay. I can talk through the door. I'm loud. And so you've got to meet people in where they are centered and then bring them the information in a way that's digestible. So that's going to be my approach as Houston's next mayor. It's also someone who can really reach people and meet them where they are and convey the information in ways that they can receive.
We appreciate you coming out and thank you for coming into the board. Yes.
So where should we take this?
Yeah, we can take a picture on this side. So you want to come on
Oh, good. Okay, Stephanie.
She went to go prepare for your next,
I know she-
but I'll send it to her. Thank you.
Are you gonna send it to?
Yeah, I'll put it in the neighborhood.
Here, let me get one from my. I didn't know. I'm in trouble. I'm with it. Thank you.
1, 2, 3. Thank y'all.
Of course, thank you. It's so good to see you. Yes, I love it. I'm not with it.
But I can send it to you without Stephanie, or do you need it? Do you appreciate it? I have her email. Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to our next segment, take a deep breath. If you need somewhere to sit, go ahead. If you need some water, please help yourselves. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we got some pastries, some snacks. Yeah, we'll give you a 2-minute break before we go.
Okay, good to see y'all.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. But it was good stuff.
This is for one of you, though. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have some water, if you want some coffee, I can make you some coffee. As-
Right laws.
There you go, opt for the banana. Alright.
And you can sit here and I'm gonna slide up.
Oh, I need it to stand. The longer I sit, the more my eyes close.
Without
So-
further ado, we're gonna have Sean Lacy, so if you're ready, we're ready for you.
Thank you all, thank you all. This is me, you all, I'm Sean Lacy, and I'm here to talk about criminal record expungement. So I too, like Mayor Edwards was saying, being a servant leader, I'm a servant leader. I served in the army during Desert Storm, and I came home and I had no idea what I was gonna do with my life. I'm, first of all, I'm originally right here from Fifth Ward, Lyons Avenue, Greenhurst, went to E.O. Smith, graduated valedictorian from E.O. Smith in 1984. I wanted to be a doctor, so I didn't go to Phyllis Wheatley. I went on to the Bakey. At that time, it was just a high school for health professions. And later they named it the Bakey High School for Health Professions. So that's where I attended, but before I could leave and go to college, our house burned down. I'm the only girl of 5 children, and I'm a single mother. So when our home burned down, I went on to the military because I didn't know any other way. I know we needed things. I know my mother needed things. I got tired of seeing my mother crying and just things happening. So I went to the military, served in Operation Desert Storm. I never went in country to Iraq, but I got sent to South Korea. So I headed up, come back, come on. So came home again after serving in the military, and I did not know what I was going to do with my life. Everything that I am to this point is because God ordered my steps to this. It became my ministry. I became a police, went to school, went to college, graduated with my bachelor's in criminal justice. And one day I was in class and an instructor came in. He said, if you had a certain amount of classes, you could go into an abbreviated police academy. Now I'm from Fifth Ward, so any opportunity to get afforded to me, I'm jumping on it. So he was like, you all only have to go 4 months. So I was like, okay. So I went to the police academy and I was a police officer 17 years. And I worked in city police and I worked in rural policing. I worked as a deputy constable. And I started off at the Harris County Sheriff's Office in Central Records, which is the heartbeat of the world, what the United States' 3rd largest prison system. While I was there, I learned some stuff. I learned a lot of stuff. And everything I learned, I brought it back to my people. So now what I do is I help people expunge their criminal records. People don't realize, like Mayor Edwards was saying, there's so much information out here, but people don't know where to go. If you get arrested and you're released a second later, as long as you're booked in, you now have a criminal record. It doesn't matter. It stays in the system. And the only way to get out the system is through expungement. So now what I do is I teach people 3 simple steps to find out if they qualify to expunge their records. I have a class and it's usually in the first of the month, no charge. All you have to do is go to my website and register. And it's erasyourrecord.com. I do sell the guide where I've come together and I've accumulated all the information, petitions, orders, directions, everything you need. If you find out that you qualify to expunge your criminal record, every single thing that you need is in this guide. All put together, one concise location, and that's about it. That's about it. I'm here. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you know anyone who can use the knowledge, the information, please pass it on. I have 2 websites. One is missofficer.com, and that's mzofficer.com, and then eraseyourrecord.com, record.com. And let me say this, because I would be remiss if I didn't. I am the great granddaughter of the 178th person to be executed in the Harris County, in the Texas electric chair. Okay? Secondly, my brother in 1989, I went to the Army in 1989, February, because he's 1 year older than me. I'm 53 now. He's 54. 1 month after I went to the military, as a first-time offender, he was sentenced to 32 years in the Texas prison system. And after being home, 2006, I was still in uniform, just got home, and Harris County Homicide knocked on my front door to tell me my baby brother had been murdered here in Houston, and his case is a cold case. I have every reason in the world not to even want to do anything dealing with this, but because this is my ministry, because this is what God gave to me. When he set me down in the Harris County Sheriff's Office in the central records, in the heartbeat, when I say it's the heartbeat of the whole entire city of Houston, Harris County jail system, he set me down right there. And that's why I gained the knowledge. And now I'm able to do what I do. I'm not an attorney, but God equipped me, appointed me. And to do this, to expunge your criminal record, you can do it pro se. You do not need an attorney. You do not have to pay the exuberant fees of $2,000 and things like that. I'm showing people how to do it for less than $500. Okay, so all you all have to do, if you know anyone, send them my way. And if you have any questions or concerns, when I say I'm here, I'm a servant leader. When Mayor Edwards was speaking about community-oriented policing, it's so necessary. It's so extremely important. But like she was saying, the money is not there. The money is not there to be able to have officers to just be in those type of positions. Even though when you patrol, you should interact with your community. But because the numbers of officers are so low right now, it's almost close to impossible. But I'll also say this. You all are also the front line. If you see something, if you know something, share it. Say something, please say something. I have a I told you all about the website, but I'm also on YouTube at Miss Officer 713, and I give a whole lot of information weekly. So you all please go subscribe and tune in. And that's it. If you all have any questions and or concerns for me, when I say I'm here, I'm so here. Yes, ma'am.
You're going to go to different events in the community and do a vendor booth and pass out information.
Yesterday, I'm so ready. I was ready yesterday. Yes, ma'am.
We're
So,
doing a mental health event at the Park on the 22nd of July.
yes, ma'am.
And we're doing it in partnership with MD Anderson and other community organizations.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd love to have your information so that we could have you to show up and do a booth to work with not only the kids, the adults, the men, women, everybody that's coming to that event. At least I'm gonna ask y'all for a vendor booth also to be at that event because we're in the process of planning it and we want it to be a wonderful event.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's something that they do really, but this year we're going to really try to take it to the next level.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
So I need all the information that you just said, because I didn't take any notes.
Yes, ma'am. It's
So
okay.
hang out what you have.
Yes,
and I'll
ma'am.
pass that on and you'll hear from me via email and Ms. Anderson, from the Anderson, you all. Also.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'm here. Right. Okay. But if anyone have any questions or concerns, just call me. When I say I'm available. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so
It's
much.
definitely something that interests me because outside of this work, I'm also a realtor and I've been helping a lot of individuals get into like rental homes and it's been an issue with their criminal records,
Yeah.
even if it's a first time offense or anything. Like they just pull the background checks and as soon as they see anything, even if it's a DUI or something that happened years ago, they can't get into a home and they're just like really, really struggling besides like the credit scores and all that stuff. And it's just really sad to see some of my clients defeated
Yes.
and
yes.
seeing that like they can't even get into a home for their kids and their wives and
Yes.
they're having to find owner to owner and can't even be backed up by like a real estate agreement because it serves to have a background check. So I see the purpose and the reason why this can very much help a lot of individuals. And he told me, he's like, my stuff was supposed to be cleaned and I don't know why it's coming back this way. And so now I'm like, hey, I got a person for you.
Exactly. And you know what, excuse me, let me say this. When you get arrested, just like I was saying a few minutes ago, it does not fall off. I don't care if they release you a second later. The only way you can get that offense off is through expungement. Even if it's dismissed, you all will be surprised. I'm working with a lady right now who has an offense of theft since 1976, $50 to $200. And it's stopping her because theft is a crime of moral turpitude. You know, so because of that, they can just look at her record, pull it, and they say, oh, she have a theft, but they don't understand how to read DISM means dismissed, but it's still on her record. The offense was dismissed, but it's still on her record. It's impacted, and it's over 80 million Americans have criminal records, and it stops everything. And it's so sad because you have people right now who can't get in homes, can't get in school, can't get jobs. So Maslow hierarchy of needs, how you gonna feed yourself? How you gonna feed your family? That's why crime is so high. People just not out here hurting people because they choose to be. People are trying to survive. One of the things right now I do is teach crime awareness, situational awareness, how to protect yourself, defensive tactics. I do all of this right now. And I tell people, do not look like an opportunity because people are looking for opportunities. But why? Harris County is the third largest jail system. How can you not go in and just say, okay, that person's office was removed. Let's just take it out the system. When I started in Harris County in 1993, they still used in the computer to designate Black people. In 1993, you know, and so I used to write a B when I was releasing someone or when I was doing paperwork, and I stayed getting in trouble because I did not want to write in. I'm not rebellious, but at the same time, come on, you know, let's do better. And my goal is to get so many people informed that the jail system can either do one or two things: hire more people to take care of these records, or do the right thing, have laws to impact. So if a person is dismissed or straight out acquitted, no build, any of that, completed they community supervisions, they deferred adjudications. If any of that is done, remove it out the computer. You don't have to let y'all, why y'all letting that sit on people? And y'all know they're stopping people's lives. And again, we are the third largest jail system. Can you all imagine right now, at this very moment, it's over 10,000 people in the Harris County jails right now. That's just the people who are locked up. We're not talking about the people who are out here on paper. You know what I'm saying? On paper. And then, and I'm going to be honest, as a police officer, first thing, sometimes you go up to a person's vehicle and you've already ran a license plate and you see they have this and this and this showing up. First thing we ask them, you on paper? Are you on papers? And for a dirty police officer, and let me get this right, let me say this right, because I honestly know you all. There are more good officers than bad. And a good officer can't stand a bad officer, but it's so hard. It's hard. So for a dirty officer, you ask a person on their paper, are they on paper? The person say, yeah, then the person is in a cinch. A DWI, say a person has a DWI and it was dismissed, but on a police screen, when we put in our information in, if it comes up, we're not gonna see that it was dismissed. All we see is that you have a DWI, so we already straight out handling it different. I'm just gonna be real with you. We do. Yeah, and so my goal is, and exactly, again, what if it's an aggravated robbery and it was dismissed? What if you went to trial and you were acquitted, but it's still in there? People think that just like credit, after 7 years, crimes fall off your record. They don't. They stay. It's crazy. I'm sorry, but it is. It stays on there. So, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
We had a question
here,
too.
What does expunge mean then? So does expunge mean that it's like it's still there, but they can't see it, or does expunge mean like it just never happened?
Okay, expungement. In Harris County, we have two different types. We have an expulsion, which is a total destruction of the record. Then you have an order of non-disclosure, which is a seal. And when it's sealed, only certain people can see it. But the thing about it is, everything you need to do to live, they can't see it. So it's still putting it behind a wall. If you want to get a house, they can't see it. If you want to get a job, they can't see it. It just depends on if you're trying to get certain jobs with like the elderly, disabled, things of that nature. So, but they can't see it. We have to get our people informed, you all. Please spread the word, because in this class, like I say, it's free. And I'm going to give people this guide, this 3-step do-it-yourself eligibility test. 3 steps, it's 3 simple steps to find out if you qualify for expungement. I hope I answered your question.
Oh no, that was great.
Oh, okay.
Because I was wondering about that. I was like, so if someone had a case that was acquitted or dismissed,
Mhm.
like, you know.
That would be a total destruction.
Okay.
Dismissals, total destruction. It's gone. FBI can't see it. Nobody. It's burned.
And there's no like laws that like, you know, I'm thinking about, I saw this in the news program a month ago. There was a guy who served like 30 years in jail for a
Right.
crime he never committed. And then he was released. But then I'm like, is that still on his record then?
Yeah, that's on this record. Right now, Texas don't have any laws to help people with situations like that, except through a pardon by the governor. So if it would have happened in Texas, I don't know where it happened.
Yeah, I think it was like Mississippi or something.
Okay.
They have a process though, yeah. Separate, yeah.
And so in this, so it's going through getting a pardon from the governor. So, and then after a pardon, then you can still get expunged.
Yeah, 'cause we gotta sue for the money. We gotta hold it from.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
sir,
wanted
Mr.
to say-
Arthur Smith.
I just wanted to say, as a alumni of E.O. Smith, this is my classmate.
No. You gotta go with-
Very proud to be able to sit here and see you. You know, I know you've been working on this here and sticking with it. I know a lot of people get involved in a whole lot of different
Thank
things,
you.
but I know you've been putting a lot of passion and a lot of effort and a lot of overtime into this. And I just love that you know, focus on just helping with one particular thing and not all over the place, but this is like an infant child of yours, and it's been growing and growing and growing.
Yes,
So
and he's
I
been
really-
here, y'all,
so-
really.
so I'm definitely, very, very, very proud I didn't even know you was gonna be here when I.
I went and knocked on his door. I walked in.
I was in the house printing t-shirts. She came out on the door. She said, hey, we have a community. So I told my wife, I said, hey, I gotta stop what I'm doing, you know, run over here right quick. And then I come in and see you, you know, so I just want to say I salute you.
I salute you too, Arthur. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, one song is one of my passions as well. Not that exactly, but all of it is what you said, pro se, you know, want everybody to know that that's your right to represent you.
Yeah.
When you hire a lawyer, that's an advocate for you, just like anybody else advocate for you, advocating for you, or anybody that works for the city serving you. You have a right, you have a constitutional right there. That means you can walk in there and do what you need to do for yourself. So
Yes.
I work with them, walk documents in there. That process is kind of difficult because you got to serve notices to different departments or whatever. So you need something like that, a package. Every package online, but you really want to have somebody kind of guide you through it. And I got families through the hard stuff, right? I just got somebody case dismissed, and I was like, okay, yeah, mom, you still gonna have to get these funds.
I see your hand, Ms. Cassandra. Give me a second.
I'm probably gonna link them in,
Thank you.
because that's the next step. After you've already won, now you gotta clean up some, you gotta
Exactly.
clean up things.
Yes, and then we have a question over here, Miss Cassandra. Can you hear us? We can hear you.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Go, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Miss Lacey. It's good to see you. My name's Cassandra. I'm with Urban Community Network. I was just really excited to see you here tonight. And I may have missed it, but I wanted to ask the question about, is there a certain criteria? Is that on your website for that certain criteria? And you're going to be at our job fair on the 20th. I just heard your name today, so your ears ought to be burning. So it's amazing how you put things together. So that's my question. Is there something on your website, or what's the specific criteria for certain people that can get their record expunged versus those that cannot? And we'll have those type of people at the job fair on the 20th. I just want answers to that, if you could.
So what is the criteria for individuals to get expunged? And you'll be at her job fair on the 20th.
I look forward to it. That's what this class is about. There's 3 steps to find out. Dismissals can be expunged. Acquittals, no bills. All of those are the type of offenses that can straight out be, order of expunction, I should say. Because what that does is it totally destroys the record. One of the biggest things, deferred adjudications. Harris County hands out deferred adjudications like candy. If you successfully complete it, you are told that it's going to be erased or whatever. It does. It's a lie. It stays on your record. But if you successfully complete it, you can get it off your record. And I love it. And I get excited about it, you all, because I love to see when I look at a person's record and I see, dang, this can come off, this can come off, let's get this off. So community supervision, even convictions. People didn't know there are even certain convictions that can be expunged. So, and the laws are awesome. Human trafficking, certain laws, when you, if someone human traffics a young lady and say, while she's in that, she go and steals from a store, she get picked up, she get arrested, and now she's in jail. She has a record, but she has this while she's in the midst of human trafficking. It's laws for that. It's laws for veterans, because sometimes we come back and we get caught up. Yeah, baby, and it's for real. It's for real. We get caught up, but after veterans court and things of that nature, veterans programs, that can be expunged. We successfully completed STAR court, you can be expunged. Weapons, a lot of unlawful carries since the new law came in September 2021 can be expunged. Know what I'm saying? So, and it's in the information, like Ms. Yusuf was saying, that is out, you can get information. But what I've done, you all, this is 20 years. This is Arthur was there. You remember when I started Acres Home, my office is in Greens Point now. But this is my baby, this is my passion, this is my ministry. This is what God called me to do. And we together, I need y'all to help me change the city.
I remember when you built the building. I remember when you built your storefront.
Yeah, right there.
And yeah, you built it and you started right there. I remember that.
And so.
So I know it's run overtime, but it's been really good information. So I'm just gonna wrap us up here in the next few minutes, but pretty much we are going into the QLA. So in front of you, you have some papers and I'll put them in front of you on the screen. And so Go Neighborhoods focuses on these types of topics. So engaging, which is around community building and advocacy, building, which is around infrastructures, growing for us to have small businesses that are thriving, learning around education, thriving around healthy community members and environments, and visioning around the arts. So pretty much I have to report at every end of the month to List Houston, which is the people that provide this program. They give us Project Goal money every single year. for us to do these projects in the neighborhood. So the money's already here. We just need community members to be like, this is what I want to do and apply for the grant. So we have safety grant available right now. And that's if you see any safety concern in the neighborhood, you need locks, you need lights, whatever, speed bumps or whatever safety initiative that you see is a concern in the neighborhood, you can get funding for that. And that includes National Night Out, which is every second Tuesday in October. Super Neighborhood has it here in Fifth Ward, so we want to make it bigger, better, participate in that. So the safety grant is out, and the Go Neighborhoods grant is also available. That one's year long. Both of them are year long. So safety grant, you can get up to $1,000. Go Neighborhood grant, you can get up to $5,000 for your safety initiatives. You can include other groups to come and apply, or you can apply within Go Neighborhoods and say, this is the project I want to do. And I'll help you fill out the form. We can sit down. I'll work you through the budget. I'll work you through what you need to write, and we can get it submitted. So that is,
Can I
Go
add
ahead.
something
Yeah.
else? Also, if you know someone that has like a really good idea, but they just need help, just like let us know. Cause I think that sometimes we run into people and we're like, yeah, this is a really great idea, but they're just scared to, move forward with it. Just send them over and we can just sit with them and just, help them, because this is money that we have to get rid of.
yeah.
So,
It when they say like money is here, the money is here.
yeah.
Yes.
I know someone, me.
Figure that one out.
But-
So pretty much it's a document that we have that's like 67 pages long. I went through the whole document and I made a simple visual for you all. So it's on the board, and I have a paperback version on the table if you want to grab one, but I'll just go through it right quick. So these are some of the projects that are up for grabs. If you can't think of anything, but you want to fit yourself into one of these projects, having a community retreat for the leaders that are here, leadership training. So if we need to do a grant workshop, if we need to do some way to help you better communication skills, public speaking, we can do some of that leadership training. Advocacy network, if we want to have a networking event and you just need a spot, hold the food, have a speaker, I can figure all of that out for you. We can host it. Voters registration, we just had Edwards come in, and man, it was sad to hear how many people don't vote. My dad just got his citizenship this year, and the first thing he did was go vote. And it was a bittersweet moment because that's all he ever wanted to do as becoming a citizen. Candidate town hall, so we had that happen. We can knock that one off the list. Animal welfare, so we do see a lot of animals, dogs that are walking around in the community, don't have homes. Maybe there's something we can do around that. Community safety initiative, so we do have the extra safety grant, but if you want to put it into a regular EAP and get 5K for a safety grant, we can do that. Around building, home ownership and renters workshop, so we do have the HUD department here, and so we can do something dedicated to Fifth Ward for renter rights or home ownership or anything like that. Home repair programs and DIY classes. So if you know how to build something, if you have the skill set too, and you're telling me you can make a class out of how to build a birdhouse or how to like fix a leak or something. I mean, my dad's plumber, I could probably get him in here too. We can figure that one out. Outreach to renters and to homeownership classes, community cleanups. We usually have those throughout the year. So that one always like gets knocked out. Housing for elders, veterans, and vulnerable community members. We've been having a lot of people actually walk into the Fifth Ward CRC and tell us they're homeless. And the navigation center opened up. So we're trying to build our resources to know where to send people to whenever they come in with these concerns. Development without displacement campaign, safety for vacant lots, strategies for vacant lots. There's a lot of vacant lots in Fifth Ward. And we should probably do something around that. Local economy development plan. Inventory on retail spaces and co-working spaces. This is actually something that's coming up in Fifth Ward. This is from our actual office. It's going to be on Chew Street. It's going to be a co-working space. And we're going to be able to rent out some lease spaces for our small businesses, brick and mortars, to have somewhere to have community and have a business at. So this,
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
this project should start at the end of the year, and you should see this building popping up in Fifth Ward soon. And this is for community, by the community. Let's see, Fifth Ward Business Network grants, advertising, mentoring. So we're here to mentor you and assist you if you don't know how to advertise. We have a marketing department that can create your flyers, create your website, get your stuff up and running. We can do that, or we can hold a workshop around how to use TikTok or whatever it is that you need. Fifth Ward pop-up markets, we usually have these throughout the year. The one that's coming up is, and I want to pitch this to y'all, but we can talk about it later. It's Fresh Friday, so every Friday in the month of July, be at the Jam Park and host like a vendor market and some musicians and kids activity. And so if that's something you're interested in, you want to collaborate on, I'm open to it. I'm writing down what my plan is for it, and I need more people to hop on and kind of help me develop that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And we can probably knock down some of this stuff in there so we can host like a DIY class for home repair while we're there, or we can do.
Or a farmer's market.
Yeah, a farmer's market while we're there. There's a lot of things we can do. It's 4 Fridays in the month of July. So just let me know. A hire or buy local campaign. We did this. We had the Fifth Ward Community Pride Day, so we can check that off. The Fifth Ward Community Pride Day, I asked local businesses to come shop local. And we put them on a cute newsletter. You should have gotten in your email or seen it on Instagram. And it was pretty successful, and it was pretty exciting to come get a coupon for a taco tostada or whatever you want. Let's see, financial literacy. I know we got useful. Yeah, so I'm gonna need you for that. Student after school programming. We know school's ending. So in our last meeting, we talked about what are we gonna do for the youth coming up this summer. The only thing that I have on my radar right now, besides other people's programming, but the Deluxe is having kids. Yeah, Tamiki, can you talk about it? Because I know you're part of that.
Yes, so at Mickey leading the Deluxe, and I work for US Dream Academy. We are partnershiping up over there from 9 to 5 for the month of June. And we're working with individuals from the age of 8 to 13. We are providing free summer programming for them. So that's the, yes. There's a flyer on it. That's the flyer.
I need my sign for the feeding Sunday.
Yes, the
My
sun.
big boy coat.
We're doing our summer program that it's been approved. I just haven't given a flyer yet, because we are trying to make sure I'm gonna negotiate between applicant, and if we're gonna add, it's gonna bring it back. So we've already got approval for that, and we had our town meeting, we considered everybody.
Awesome. So, yeah, so if you have flyers, or you need us to create a flyer, we can definitely share it on the Go Neighborhood page. However, we can get you exposure. I'm also trying to open up volunteer positions that are just dedicated to community outreach for kids that want to get extra credit, like after school, extra community service. After school, they can come pick up flyers and go flyer the community. So if you want to drop off flyers to me, I'll be opening up the community service opportunity for that. So that's a little bit around education. Parent surveys. What do parents want to see? Expand parent participation in PTA and PTO.
Definitely the cybersecurity, that's the thing.
The cybersecurity,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, I just had a conversation with my cousin who's 8 over the weekend about like browsing online safely. And so his mom caught him having a conversation with a random stranger. And like, it was like, who are you talking to? He was like, I don't know.
That's exactly
still
what I was
happens.
talking to Ms. Edwards about. We just see a lot of elderly people get scammed out of their money. You know, they don't know how to identify the difference between a legitimate message and a scam. So they just start communicating with people that are bad actors, and then they give away, you know, and when it happens, they don't know where to go to get it repaired. They don't know, you know, and then the same thing with the kids, you know, they're online, they learn online, they don't even have books anymore. And they encounter these situations, they don't know how to, you know, they don't have the information to handle them. So
It's evolved.
Yeah.
It's evolved. Like they'll try to trick you and just say, you know, you want to opt out first one.
but not even,
But you choose something. Yeah, like you literally just gotta hang up. So they're involved in, so like information, there's a lot of .gov, like, information out there, but you gotta keep up with like the latest scam. So yeah, we should do like a repetitive one just to keep up with everything.
Yeah, the city will tell you, you know, how to get funding for housing, you know, how to you know, get into there's so much information out there, but I don't see anything about how to help people, you know, avoid being victims of.
The only person that does that is AARP, and you have to be old enough to get the
Exactly.
information from AARP,
Exactly.
because AARP does a wonderful job
Yeah.
of putting out monthly how to be aware of scammers, scams, and et cetera. And I take that newsletter and I pass it out to everybody because it has a wealth of information about telephone calls, about pets, about insurance. I mean, they have every category that you think you need is there. So if you know anybody who's old enough to have AARP or have not joined AARP or you
My
want to,
parents, yeah.
I'll pass my newsletter on to you all because after I read it, I just pass them around. Because it's
That's
wonderful
what it takes.
information.
That's an example of the information.
And they do a wonderful job of educating the seniors. That's a part of that organization about the fiber. They call it scamming. They just say scamming, and it's all kind of scams. And I was reading it the other day, and I was like, God, that's a whole nother area, you know, that you're not aware.
I think they use the .gov website. So I'm talking about like Homeland Security,
Right.
It's free information,
Yeah. Exactly.
in CISA. Like, so those two
Yeah,
sites, the
the
.gov
I
site.
seen that.
So I don't go to no.org, .com, none of that, the .gov site, those two sites. They literally keep up there, they're actively managing. And they normally disseminate the most of the affiliated programs, like private companies that are affiliated, that are that good.
Right.
That give information to people because you can be sued if you give the wrong information. Right, so.
And I understand the sentiment, because my mom, she'd be screenshotting stuff to me, and I'm in her betting process.
Exactly.
And my mom's Mexican and Latina, she's like, no sé qué es eso, like, what is it? And she'd be like, I'm a 10, and she's like, well, I clicked it, I was like, this is why you have bugs on your phone, on your Android, mom. Yeah.
Scroll through that, but like even major corporation.
And just to kind of wrap up on this one, so reopening the Fifth Ward Library, we had the library here, it's been shut down since, and so how do we get some of these amenities back? Adult education opportunities, advocate for HCC satellite campus in Fifth Ward, expand mental health care, healthcare resources, wellness and activity, living program, create Fifth Ward on the move, Fifth Ward marker, farmers market. I actually did meet with somebody that opened up a gym facility near Fifth Ward, and they want every Sunday to have a farmers market at their facility. And so that's something that maybe we can collaborate and see like how we can help them get that running. Action plan for environmental and criminal climate justice, support cancer clusters. There's been a lot of information about the cancer clusters with Creosote and Fifth Ward. If you need more information on that, please let me know. There's a bunch. Environmental Justice Academy training and internships, provisioning, Fifth Ward history and archive, identify landmarks and preserve them. Fifth Ward Museum, healing through art, Fifth Ward artistic support networks, fund permanent and temporary art for local artists and artists housing and exhibit spaces. And I think the only thing I want to highlight in that visioning is I was talking to Mr. Art the other day. He came into the office and he says he wants to see a mural. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I want to see a mural in the area, like where off the corner of Lowndes Avenue and Jensen Drive. And when you heading north, that's that bridge that you go up under the train track. Well, I was speaking about and interviewing her here on Fifth Ward Live TV, and I was just thinking that there would be a prime spot because on the left side and the right side, it already has the fence that kind of gives you that old school Fifth Ward feel, but that fence kind of it's a walkway there. So if we can just have some murals of something that, you know, so many murals up in Fifth Ward already, but let's have something that's gonna be innovative and uplifting and exciting that we have not, already, seen, let's put something new there, but if you can imagine going down Lowndes Avenue, get to Johnson Drive, turn right. Before you get to Lorraine, you're gonna go up under that, right there by the old Crawford Elementary. But on the left hand and the right hand side, that's just like, man, if we put some light in there and put some murals, let some of the youth have some ideas and do the painting and kind of mix the old school, the new school. And let's just make that very uplifting.
And it's also
It'd
a
be
safety
perfect.
hazard too,
Yes.
because a lot of kids walk in that little path.
Yeah, and it's very dark right now. It's no light.
And even if you light it up with the murals and then put some lighting out there with the safety grant, we're doing some stuff out there in cultivating, we're doing some
Like some safety
benches or
cameras,
whatever,
safety cameras.
huh? With
Like
safety
you said,
cameras,
yeah.
then that would be great, because that is it's a prime area for a wonderful artwork.
Oh, yeah.
And it actually gives a lot of visibility to people driving through that, forget about it, but it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
But it's just definitely utilized by kids all the time,
That's right.
and we can definitely make it safe, that's a good idea.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Thank you. So I'm definitely.
We gotta
relying on
set
you.
up
We-
a little
we in, we
meeting.
working on it.
Yeah.
We working
Just need to find a painter.
on it. Yeah.
We did put it out, and so we had some people actually reach out wanting to be the artist and say, "Yeah, I'm from Fifth Ward, I wanna come back and I wanna paint it."
Yes.
And so now we gotta make those connections happen.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'm already say all the time, this is our diamond in the rough. I see she just ran through that whole, everything, like boom, boom, boom. And I've been, doing my best to get the word out. This young lady right here is, she's on the move. She got me excited. I haven't been over here doing anything. But when she came knock on my door, I was like, stop right now. I got to go over here because I need to show her that when I'm up here talking about how much she doing this, that, and so when she come knock on the door, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. I gotta get behind her. I want to keep on getting the word out because a lot of times we have these jewel of individuals that are passionate. She do this shit. She sleep, eat, and drink this. Man. So I want to. Because a lot of times we get, other big machines and other big companies and corporations and nonprofits, they'll notice this talent. Next time we come back, they be like, "What's that?" Oh, she down up. Because we didn't put a spotlight in and show how much we value and appreciate her time because she do some stuff that I ain't never seen. I love it. I love it.
I appreciate y'all. I love y'all.
Clap, clap, clap.
There is a lady, Deborah, Blatlocks Alone.
Yeah.
She has a heritage piece. We had talked about her applying for EPA because as I looked at that, I said that's something that's needed in our community, and she works for the historical preservation area for the Houston and Harris County. And she's going to be reaching out, and I gave her the EAP, and I told her, I said, please let Denise know anything that you need. She said, well, I'll call you. No, I'm not the first. You need to call Denise and let her know. Because she has some wonderful ideas about what, she works with the Freedmen Association and the Folk Board. And she wants to leave that and do something else. And she's really about a project of support.
Yeah.
And basically, the majority of the historical markers that you see at Fifth Ward is because of her work and what she's done.
Like the one that's down the street right here, Mr. Don Roby.
Right. Well,
Right
yeah,
here,
yeah.
right here on Loud before you get to
You
this.
know them.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Y'all classmates or something?
No, she
Not quite,
graduated before
okay,
me.
but she's from the community. And when I saw that, I kept looking at it and I called and I said, you need to apply for this because this would be great because we don't have any historical relevance where we can promote the pride that we have in our community in the different segments of our community. We have it on Lowndes Avenue, but Lowndes Avenue is not the most important place in Fifth Ward, although that's what,
That's the focus.
It's different. There are other places, and because she has done a lot of historic work around the community to get other people markers, she's aware of all that. So I'm gonna reach out to her. I told her I'd give her until Tuesday, and she hadn't reached out. I was gonna introduce you all over the website. So
I want to say something to what you're saying. I want to say something to what you're saying because I was at City Hall probably about 3 weeks ago, and maybe it was about 30 days ago, and I brought up the fact that Julia, the home of Mr. and Mrs. Julia C. Hester is still at, I think it's at 1702 West Street, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's
The-
still there.
The house is still there, but that is like, that's one of the prime spots that would be ideal for a historical marker dealing with the Harris
I
County.
think she's dealing with that, and I know she's dealing with the Lonnie Smith house out here. Because Lonnie Smith Library that's named in Third Ward, the house and family and stuff, they're out here. So they're trying to preserve that house and get in touch with family members to put the historical marker there. So yes, that's true. So she's working on a lot of those different projects, and that's why I say because she's a wealth of information, and she's been doing a lot of different projects around the city, she easily can connect a lot of things together to have a historical, whatever. I think it was the first two purple bullets, and I said, oh, Deborah, that's. Deborah. You know,
Cause
that's
then
Deborah.
she deals with the ones that represents 50 years. Cause like the state,
She got 150 in that.
yeah, the state mostly be dealing with, the smallest number of years that she can help get one is 50.
The smaller, but what we're talking about is basically to identify all of those historical places within the community. When you look at that, one or two block in that purple block, whatever that, number one or two in that purple block. When I talked to her about it, I was just talking to her about what can she come up with. I wasn't trying to give her an idea. Obviously, you know, you and God take care of that, because that's your area, whatever you need to do. But there's a lot that you can offer our community, because we have no historical relevance as it relates to those different markers and different areas within our community, because we're losing them all because they're tearing them down.
So what y'all are saying is that by the time our next Go Neighborhood meeting happens, we're gonna have like 50 grant applications. Because,
From me, you ought to have four.
yeah, I was like, I want 50, like a ton, because sometimes I look at the grant application stuff and I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm like, this is free money for projects, I hear all these ideas. And I'm
Is
like,
that deadline the 25th?
the 25th?
For me, is that deadline for 25th?
So pretty much every fourth Thursday of the month is when steering committee meets to vote on the EAPs that were submitted anytime before that time.
Okay.
So if you're wanting to submit and are needing funding, just like make sure that like you have a month of cushion space for it to get like sorted out, distributed and voted on. That's pretty much the process at this moment.
So would it help mine out with the others? Would it help with having something related to safety with the lighting and all that along?
We can plug in safety, we can plug in a QLA art, so there's multiple ways to plug it in. Yeah, it's like a multi-connected project, yeah. But I don't want to keep you too long. I know we're already 46 minutes overtime. But definitely thank you. I'm here for Q&As and whatever else you need. We will be meeting every second Thursday. But before that, I'm open, pretty much my calendar is open for you to start plugging in your projects for me. Yes. Yes. Yes.